Welcome back, scholars. We are now going to dive into our lesson for today. Scholars, for today's lesson, you will need the following. You will need your excerpt from Cleopatra by Allegra and Charles Swinburne, sheet of paper, pencil, and a distraction-free location. Remember, if you have questions about today's lesson, visit us in our office hours at 2:15. Scholars, office hours today goes back to the original time, which is at 2:15. Remember, we're all here to support each other, grow as learners, and make this virtual experience the best experience ever. Scholars, we will have the same vocabulary for today's lesson. Our vocabulary terms are line. What word? Line refers to a unit of language into which a poem is divided. Usually, lines of a poem or play are numbered. The word is line. What word? The next word is stanza. What word? So on Friday, we broke our poem down stanza by stanza to find the literal meaning of each stanza. The definition for stanza is a type of poem paragraph where our lines are grouped together. Poems can consist of one stanza or many stanzas. The word is stanza. What word? So scholars, our discussion prompt is, what does the poem say? As we read through the poem, we are going to go in. On Friday, we looked and talked about stanzas 1 and 2. Today's lesson, we're going to focus on stanzas 3 and 4. So on Friday, we created this T-chart, a T-chart that showed us stanzas 1 through 4, and then our literal meaning on the right-hand side. Scholars, use this opportunity to grab your T-chart from Friday so that you can actively participate in today's lesson. So now that you have your T-chart from Friday, we're going to move along. In this next independent practice, we are breaking down stanzas 3 and 4 to find the literal meaning of stanzas 3 and 4. So our goal for today is, after we've gone in and broke down stanzas 3 and 4, our goal is to summarize the overall poem, Cleopatra. So at the end of today's lesson, we should be able to offer a summary that tells us the literal meaning of the entire poem. We're moving. Again, you should have this T-chart in front of you. We have already completed stanzas 1 and 2 as a group, and independently, you completed stanzas 3 and 4. In today's lesson, we are going to review stanzas 3 and 4 and prepare for our independent practice and exit ticket, where we answer the question, what does the poem say? What is the literal meaning of the entire poem? So let's start with stanza 3. You see against her throat the small, sharp, glittering shadows shake, and through her hair the emerald curled likeness of the river snake, whose bite shall make an end of all. So on Friday, scholars, you independently answered this stanza. I am going to share with you what I wrote for the literal meaning. Now let's remember, our literal meanings did not have to be very long. They should have been between 1 and 2 sentences. I wrote that she wears jewels and her headband looks like a poisonous snake. Again, I wrote she wears jewels and her headband looks like a poisonous snake. Some of us might be saying, where did you get a headband? And through her hair, the emerald curled likeness of the river snake. All right. Giving you just a few seconds if you need to add to your literal meaning from Friday. All right, let's go ahead and look at stanza 4. So stanza 4 read, She treads on gods and God-like things, on fate and fear and life and death, on hate that cleaves and love that clings, all that is brought forth of man's breath, and perish with what it brings. Right? Give you a few moments to consider that. I'm going to share with you what I wrote as the literal meaning for stanza 4. Cleopatra is divine, and remember our vocabulary divine from way back when meant God-like. So I wrote that Cleopatra is divine and is all powerful. You need to add or revise. This is a great opportunity for you to go into your notes. Again, these are our notes from Friday. All right, so scholars, on your notes, we have read stanzas 1 through 4. 1 and 2 we went over on Friday, and then stanzas 3 and 4 we discussed on today. And yes, you've already answered the literal meaning for stanzas 3 and 4. And I must say, you guys did exceptionally well on your independent practice on Friday. Ms. Richardson and I were very, very proud of you. So in today's lesson, we are now going to combine all of that goodness and create one summary and an ace paragraph to summarize the literal meaning of this poem. So in order for us to do so, we're going to go step by step. So scholars, I want you to take your notes. The first thing you need to do is write your claim. When you write your claim, simply tell what the poem was about. Again, when you write your claim, you're simply summarizing. You're going to just tell me what the poem was about. You don't have to add your evidence or anything right now. You're just summarizing the poem. I could simply write Swinburne's poem Cleopatra was about this divine, God-like woman named Cleopatra. I'm going to give you 1 minute. You are writing your claim. "35 seconds. "10 seconds. All right, scholars, now that you have your claim, it's time to give context. Now remember, context is the information that's needed to understand your claim and to help the reader understand your summary or your ACE paragraph. Think about if a person had never read Cleopatra. What important information would they need in understanding what you're talking about? I want you to take 1 minute and you're going to write down your context. Your minute has started. 5 seconds. All right, scholars. So here's the juicy part. We've already made our claim. We've given context. So my claim that I'm going with is that this poem is about this divine, god-like woman named Cleopatra. To spice it up, I might say who has the ability to be extremely powerful towards others. I now need to give evidence. So look at your T-chart. In your T-chart, we've broken down each stanza. And in each stanza, it talks about a quality of Cleopatra. So for your evidence, you can simply go in and select your stanzas. Look at what you wrote as your evidence, as your literal meaning. Use that as your evidence in your ACE response. Got it? So I'm going to give you a few seconds. You do not have to write this down, but I want you to use your T-chart. Identify which stanza best supports the claim that you have made. Now remember, you need 2 pieces of evidence. That means you should select 2 stanzas. All right, I'm going to give you a few seconds. If you want to circle, if you want to underline, whatever you choose to do to identify which stanza you're going to use, then that is what I want you to do. So go ahead, take these few seconds, identify the stanzas that you're going to use as your evidence. Let's go. I'll go ahead and start it. I'll stop it at 30 seconds. All right, 5 more seconds, guys. All right, so now that you've identified which stanzas you're going to use, let's look to see what's next. What do we need to do next? Yes, we need to write our analysis. Now, scholars, this is the point where our ACE paragraph starts to go choo, 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 downhill. Let's make sure when we write our analysis, we're using a hired word and we're making an inference. For example, this reveals, this highlights, right? So I want you to make sure that you use a higher word. What do I mean by with an inference? I need to talk about what is something I can infer from the poem. For example, I can say that this reveals that Cleopatra has the ability to be a great leader and ruler because she is powerful. Did I mention that in my initial claim? No. I am now making an inference to what Cleopatra can do with her power. So, scholars, I'm going to give you 1 minute. I want you to write your analysis using a higher word. This highlights, this reveals, this illustrates. I want you to use your hired word and make an inference. Now, when you're making an inference, you're going back to your claim and you're adding to it. What can I add to make this claim even stronger without simply rewriting my claim? I'm going to give you 1 minute. You are now writing your analysis. Your time has started. Okay, scholars. So we have just completed our summary of the poem. We wrote a claim. We have a context. We have our context. We've identified which two stanzas we're going to use as our evidence. And we've written our analysis using a hired word and making an inference. So, scholars, it is time for your independent practice and exit ticket. You are going to be so excited when you realize you have already written your exit ticket. The only thing you have to do now is complete your exit ticket. Scholars, you have your claim, you have your context, you need to write out your evidence, and you have your analysis. Scholars, I cannot wait to read your responses. I hope you guys have a magnificent Monday, and I will see you on Terrific Tuesday.